Determine the domain and range of the following quadratic function in interval notation. F of x equals 2x squared plus 8x plus 2. Well, we're in for one treat. When it comes to the domain, there really couldn't be much easier. You see, a quadratic is a type of a polynomial function. And polynomial functions in general have the property that their domain is unrestricted. So, the domain for all quadratics is going to be negative infinity to positive infinity. The range is a little bit trickier, but really not much trickier. So the idea is, and I'm not even really sketching this particular graph here, I'm just sketching ideas here. The idea is we have a quadratic which has the graph of a parabola. And a parabola can either face upward or it can face downward. And you can determine that by the sign of the leading term coefficient. Here, my leading term coefficient is positive, which means that my parabola will open upward. So no matter where this parabola exists, it looks something like this. And this is my vertex. And that vertex has the coordinates hk. And what's special about that is, in this case, it's a minimum value, which means nothing goes below the parabola than that point. So the parabola is defined everywhere from positive infinity down to this particular point, and that's it. And that's what's meant by the range. So effectively, if we can determine what this point is on the vertex, it's going to be that value up to positive infinity for the range. Now there's a couple of different ways of determining the vertex. One is to use the vertex formula. The vertex formula says it's at negative b over 2a, but we're actually looking at the y-coordinate of that. So once we get this value, we would then need to plug it into the function. And some students find it easier to use this because they just like formulas better. But really, students who use the process of completing the square tend to get this a little bit more often correct. Completing the square sounds difficult at first, but it's really nothing to it. You just separate the x terms from your constant. If there is a leading term coefficient, factor that out. And then complete the square. And completing the square is easy. You just take the number multiplying x, divide it by 2. So 4 over 2 is 2. Square that, that's positive 4. The only thing you have to be careful of is when you add 4 here, because of this 2, since it's multiplying everything in those parentheses, you're actually adding 8 to this side of the equation, which means you have to subtract 8 on the outside. So this becomes 2 times x plus 2 quantity squared minus 6. And that minus 6 is the y value of your vertex.